deal with any trauma you have before the money shows up, because if you don't, your trauma will now have resources. And
a person's wealth is determined by their assets, investments, and things that they own. I say true wealth is about how you live it. Your girl is back. Welcome to season 2 of Wealth Within Reach. I'm very excited to introduce this panel. This is a really amazing panel of great, wow, you'll just see. Okay, so first we have Jasmine Butler Booth. Give her a round of applause. Woo, yes, with the purple. Good to see you. Next up, we have our very own Allison Saunders. Woo, yes. Yes. You understood the assignment. Yes, you did. Next up, we have a good friend I've known for a really long time in commercial real estate. Really excited to have Mike Davis. Woo! All right, thank you. Love it. And last but not least, a really amazing person I've known for a long time, one of my husband's BFFs, author. They're going to tell you about their bio in a second, but really excited to have Ramal Toon. Let's go. Let's go. Hi. Hey, so much. All right. Thank you guys. Thank y'all so much for being here. Y'all look great, by the way. Don't they look amazing?
All right, I'll go first. I'm Allison. I am from Dallas, Texas. Is D-Town in the state? D-Town, we here, D-Town? Texas? All right. Texas never disappoints, okay? We be everywhere, okay? All right, so a little bit about me. I've been working with Erika since about 2021. I am like a OG in this thing, if you will.
She is OG. What cohort were you in?
What'd you say?
What cohort?
Three.
Okay, cohort 3 folks out there.
It's cohort number 3 in this thing. I see a few again. Come on, I see y'all. Again, we deep up in here, okay? But all the things. So I have a healthcare background. I have worked in the laboratory space for a long time. I'm a STEM girl. So had basically run across Erika, which I think that'll come out in our Q&A session here in a bit, so I won't tell everything. But I do still, originally my goal was to leverage real estate to get rid of my W-2. So just was, kind of done with that space of the healthcare and everything. So I said, hey, I'm going to make some moves in this space. Started doing that. We'll talk more about that process. And in the meantime, I ended up getting not really a promotion, but I applied for a new job at my company, got that job. So now I actually love my job, which I could never imagine myself saying those words, just FYI. Love my job, but now I've got real estate too. So I just kind of look at it like they go hand in hand. So now my W-2 just helps me buy more real estate.
Yes.
So yes. I also own a boutique travel company. I plan group travel for people as well. So.
I love it. Thank you, Allison. Awesome. Jazz, you want to go into it?
So I'm Jasmine. I buy, sell, and invest in real estate. I'm actually on Erika's team. I'm also one of the coaches for her program. So looking forward to telling y'all a little bit more about that. And I help people make smart moves in real estate.
Yes, I love it. And even before Jasmine Teresa got married, even before she got married, she had like 10 or 11 units. So single ladies out there, you can invest too. I love it.
Yeah, my name is Mike Davis. I'm in commercial real estate, as Erika mentioned, a firm here in Atlanta called Scotland Wright Associates. We do commercial real estate brokerage on the office and industrial side, and I lead our office team. Married, have 2 little kids, and I'm also a lay pastor at one small church here in Atlanta.
Love it, love it. And Ramal.
Okay. Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Ramal Toon. I'm a social impact investor. I'm an author of a few books. I'm vice president for strategic partnerships and marketing at a company called TMS Global. I also do some C-suite leadership coaching. And military veteran, combat medic, and I'm from California, but been in Atlanta for 9 years.
All right, all right. I love it. Y'all are a very accomplished group, okay? So I know the panel here invests in real estate and stocks and lots of different things. And so our goal today is really trying to unpack what it's like to, like, if you could think about when you first got started, when you first dipped your toes in investing, what were some of the challenges or some of the thoughts that you had that you felt like was a barrier to you actually getting started? Jasmine, why don't you get started?
So I have been in real estate for almost 10 years, and so I was selling people houses before I could actually qualify to buy one. So lots of imposter syndrome and all the things. So my challenge was just knowledge. Like each year I did my taxes, I felt like I made more money, but I was set back. So really just having to learn knowledge that wasn't given to me and learning by experience that took years. But all of that compounded, and I'm able to help other people do the same thing now, faster.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Mike, what I love about your story is that, so I know Mike's parents, and Mike's parents are goals, y'all. They are goals. And so you grew up seeing your family invest. So how did that impact you when you got older? What made you want to start picking up some properties? And were there any even though you had a situation where you seen your family invest, were there any challenges that prevented you from initially getting started?
Yeah, I definitely was blessed with awesome parents that laid a great foundation for me. But I would say short-termism, I think, was something I kind of had to face when I originally decided I was going to invest. I bought my first property when I was a student athlete at Georgia State University.
Yeah.
And basically I was in position where I had saved, they pay a lot more to play college football.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have got paid regardless. But I had saved a stipend that they would provide for student athletes monthly. And this was right around the Great Recession. And so I had saved up like $10,000 of just student athlete checks essentially because I had good counsel to do that. And but I was planning to buy a car with that money. And my mom, she intervened with a word of wisdom, and she said, hey, you can have this car, and it is practical, it might be helpful, but she said, I would encourage you, because there were, properties that were selling on short sales for like $40,000, so yeah. $10,000 is enough for a down payment, and she said, I would buy something that you can live in off campus, and then when you move, you can rent it out. And I will say, I truly debated whether I was going to buy that car or buy that condo. And even though I had seen the benefits of investing, but that sort of instant gratification of the car versus understanding the long-term benefit, luckily, wisdom sort of won out in that scenario. But that short-termism was something that almost cost me a lot, because that property appreciated a ton. And
yeah.
was rented for a long time.
Yeah. And they just announced the West End Mall next door.
And Atrium Health is bought 40 acres right across from West End Mall.
So you bought this for how much, and then how much does it worth now?
I bought it in 2010 for $40,000, and it's worth probably like 165 now.
Wow. Yeah.
But it's been rented. I lived in it for 2 years, and it has been rented. It was rented to a Section 8 for 8 years, and it was paid off pretty quick. So it was cash flowing, like, for me personally, like $1,200 a month.
That's
for
good.
A while. So
that's great. All because you didn't go and buy a car.
Because I listened to my mom.
Wow. There you go. There you go. What about you, Ramon? Mindset challenges you had when you first started out.
Mindset. I mean, it was interesting, the story that was just shared. So for me, the biggest barrier to overcoming mindset was first, I think, believing I was worthy of the quality of life I desired, but then it became believing I was worthy of being in a room with high net worth individuals. But I would say with all of that, the biggest lesson I've learned that positioned me well on the backside of the first failure, coming into a lot of money and then losing it, was realizing that something I teach leaders now, young leaders who are coming into significant capital, is deal with any trauma you have before the money shows up, because if you don't, your trauma will now have resources, and you will end up buying a car instead of making the investment.
Gem dropped.
So I would say that's a big lesson. The person whose trauma is informing the resources will buy the car because they never had a car. So now trauma has resources to do things, to lash out.
Ooh. Okay, I got a follow-up question, because you just, yeah, okay. So you mentioned, you started off saying you had to realize you were worthy. What made you feel like you weren't worthy? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, I mean, I came from an environment where, people didn't have resources. And so not only the people around me, but the environment, the nonverbal cues of my upbringing said that I didn't belong. And so when opportunities come up and you're positioned in certain places, it's easy to assume that everyone else who's here got here a different way. They had come from the right backgrounds, they had the right pedigree, went to the right schools, but I didn't come in that way.
Yeah.
And so there's this deception of belonging, when the reality is everyone in the room knows that you didn't come the way they came. And so they actually intimidated by your presence because they know it was harder for you. Ooh. And yet you're still here anyway. And so it's as a person of faith, it's for me taking dominion over my story and allowing my trauma to submit to the authority of who God is in my life, and to show up in the room expecting to be a teacher rather than someone who just tries to fit in, because I know how to get to places like this. I have skills that were needed to get here that other people probably don't have.
Right.
So just stepping into the power of knowing that I belong here, and there must be something uniquely different about me because I'm here in spite of everything I had to overcome.
That's good. That's really good. That's a word. That's really good. That's awesome. So, okay, so y'all know that when you follow me on Instagram, you're going to see the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? I'm not going to sugarcoat nothing. And a part of the investing journey, you have highs and you have lows, right? But why we're here today is because we're working on how do we persevere during those lows. And so when things don't go well, how do we tap into what resources do we have? I love to call on Allison. Allison, talk to me about the time things didn't go as you thought they were going to go, and how did you feel, and what resources did you tap into to help you overcome and keep going?
This is a setup, just so y'all know. She set me
It's
up.
very much a setup. Very much.
Well, I will tell you, I was approached by a good friend of mine to, she had found this street in another state that had, I want to say y'all, it was 7 available duplexes for sale. So where I was at that particular time in my investment journey, that's where I was trying to go, into multifamily, ran all the numbers. Everything looked good. Me and my friend, she brought in a couple of other people. We were going to make a play on all of them so that we could renovate them all and, of course, increase the comps, that sort of thing, add to the property value, right? And then I'll rent them. Perfect. I go, minding my business, getting my loan, all these things. I close on my loan about a year ago. After closing, I get a call. Well, the rest of us couldn't get financed, so good luck. So it was me with 2 duplexes, out of state, in a town I know not a soul, but this is where it's important to have those resources, right? So at this time, I'm already involved with Erika and things like that or whatever. So she, again, reassured me. I reached out to Erika. Erika's always available to, her masterminders and things like that. I was able to reach out to her. She confirmed, hey, we ran these numbers. They look good. With or without your friends, this is still a sound investment. right? Because that's why it's important to
Yeah.
have this knowledge that I've gained, right? So there's nothing I can do now. Anyway, I'm already in the deal. Move forward. Erika helped me, kind of find my contractor, that sort of thing. It wasn't always ideal because I did go ahead and keep the property manager that was existing for those properties at the time. So honestly, y'all, it has been just, thing after
Challenging.
thing with these, right? So of course the friends dropped out, got them renovated, at least half of them. So it's two duplexes, one side of them both, I got renovated. During the renovations, I noticed that I'm getting bills from my property manager on the units that are being renovated. The AC needed to be serviced. So reached out to her, hey, those are being renovated, so I don't need you
We
to
don't
do
need to touch those.
anything to them, nothing. Okay, no problem, I understand that. The next month, I get another bill. We had to go do a repair on the door. I said, well, the door is brand new. Why do we need to
And I'm on
repair
the
door?
phone. Fire her!
She's already telling me.
This is the edited version of what I said. I actually didn't say fire her. I said some other things, but
Correct.
okay.
She did, immediately. So she was basically like, fire first, ask questions later. But I was like, well, let me just see why she replaced the door. Long story short, she's saying that the person on the other side, my tenant, was saying that the unit was broken into, there was glass everywhere. And I'm like, this is crazy. I'm just finding out about this a month later, and these invoices, XYZ. So I said, well, can I have some pictures? Oh, well, when my handyman got there, there was no glass, there was nothing.
It's crazy.
So every month I'm getting $900 of bills from this property manager. I'm getting $100 out of my rent. It was crazy. Listen to my mentor there, let go of the property manager. By this time, the renovations are about done. We turn on the water. 3 of the 4 units have water leaks. 3 out of the 4.
Yeah.
Got past
so
that,
we're still
got
going.
a plumber out. So then at this time, we're completely done. Get them listed. In the meantime, I have 2 tenants. Get those tenants moved out. I did have to let go of my tenants so that way I could concentrate on their units. Get the units listed. 3 weeks ago, somebody
Listen
burned-
to this, y'all.
Yeah, I get a call from my contractor at 10:30 at night, and I'm like, first time I ignored it, because I'm like, why is he calling me at 10:30 at night? Second time I ignored it, it's a butt dial. Third time, he just kept calling, so I said, okay, something's up. Yeah, so someone set my newly renovated duplex on fire. Yeah.
Not sugarcoating here.
Not sugarcoating at all. I called Erika. The very next day, reached out to Erika. Honestly, 7 that morning. I was just like, hey, I'm not in a good place. Erika listened to my Voxer. She said, call me.
I don't give my clients my phone number.
She does not use it. Okay.
And I was like, this is a moment.
This is my number. Call me. This is serious. This warrants a phone call. And I can tell y'all, that meant so much to me that I was able to reach out to her and she was actually there for me, right?
Yeah.
So from that experience, I realized that number one, I've made a really good decision of getting into a community.
Yeah.
Okay, so listen to what I'm saying. Get into a community, leverage a community if you have that, right? And then secondly, I have accepted that I truly believe. I've had to tap into those things that Erika has taught me about mindset, right? So we can all say it, but do we really believe it, right?
Yeah.
So I have to tap into what do I really believe. To the core of me, I do believe, and I said this all week to everyone who will listen, the thing that separates people or people who are not successful from successful people are the people that don't quit.
Yeah.
Because right now is when I want to quit.
Yeah.
3 weeks ago, I wanted to list all 7 properties that I have for sale.
And
The-
just
the
be
very
like,
next
okay,
day.
bye.
Be like,
Yeah.
you know what, I'm going back to my house in Frisco. Them tenants, their lease is up in February. Let me go ahead and give them notice that they need to be out in February because I'm going back to my house, selling all of this stuff, okay? But I can't quit, y'all, okay?
Yeah.
That's what's going to separate me from everyone else,
Yeah.
right? So it's just learning that foundation of the mindset. And to Erika's point, when she first came out this morning, she starts everything with mindset. So my very first call with her, that's what we did was mindset work because that's the foundation of everything.
Oh, that's good. And she's out there. And it's so funny because the day after I listened to a podcast, and it was like Jonesboro, Arkansas is one of the #1 markets. So I was just like, hang in there, hang in there. But no,
That's where my
really
property is, Jonesboro. And she was like, I just listened to a podcast. They said that's the best market. And I'm like, okay.
Sure. No, that's good. That's good. So thank you for sharing, too. I know that's not easy, sharing when you're in it. Folks like to share things when they're out of it, and it's all nice and buttoned up, and we know like what the result is. But people don't share stuff when they're actually in it. So I do appreciate that. I wanna talk about this idea of interested versus invested. Okay, so you have people here. How long? Raise your hand if you're here, and you have been wanting to invest in real estate for longer than 3 years, but have not jumped into it yet. A lot of people here, yeah. So they're at a place where I call interested, right? So they're interested in investing, but for some reason haven't pulled the trigger and got invested. And so a lot of times there's fear, there's doubt, there's all these kind of things that we're battling with. For you guys, does fear just leave you, or how? Do you wake up one day and you're like, I'm no longer scared?
No.
How does it work? How does it work for y'all in y'all's life? And how do you overcome it?
I'm always scared. It's that phrase, do it afraid. I literally just have to do it. Another sort of aha moment from lately was, I feel like the more knowledge I got, the more scared I got. I feel like when I was a little more naive to all the things that could happen, I would be willing to actually, my husband said this too. He said back when he had like no money and nothing, he would call like big real estate signs of like acres of land or big buildings or something like that to say like he's interested, how much is this? Same thing, I would be like just motivated to make a call and see what it takes. And now I will talk myself out of a deal because I know all of the barriers that are there. So I think even just recognizing that I need a mindset shift in that way with the knowledge, like the vast amount of knowledge that I've gained, it also kind of diminishes my faith in a sense.
Okay, that's good. Good. Anyone else?
Yeah. So I think there's two things I've learned about fear. The first is that fear is a messenger. So, and what I mean by that, as a friend of mine used this metaphor once, she said that you have to view fear through the lens of being a mail carrier. And fear comes to deliver a message. It's not something that's unhealthy or negative. You have to, just like mail, receive it and then look at what is this here to teach me, and then send fear on its way. Just like your mail carrier, they don't deliver the mail and take up residence in your home.
Right.
So fear has to be viewed through the lens of being a messenger. So when fear shows up, the question you sit with is, what are you here to teach me? What have I not been willing to confront in myself that is causing this fear? And then learn the lesson from fear and send it on its way.
That's good.
The second thing I would say about fear is that oftentimes it's attached to the fact that we center our identities in the fear. So I am this moment, right? Rather than this is a moment. And so...
Give us an example.
So you can... Her story is a perfect example. I mean, it was crisis after crisis. And so when you center yourself in the crisis, if you have a previous story of crisis, you're saying, this is me, this always happens to me. And or I am, statements that are now centering you in the crisis rather than positioning yourself outside of it. This is not me, this is a moment. These are things that happen, and because of who I am, I can deal with the crisis.
Yeah.
As in other words, where you are is not who you are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When you position yourself outside of the crisis and outside of fear, and remember who you are, a person of strength, a person who has skills, a person who is still deeply loved by God, that every gift you have and every skill you have always carried with you is still yours. That's who you are.
Yeah.
And when you remember who you are, that's when you make where you are change.
I love it. I love that. So, speaking of this, yes, please.
When is the therapy session? Where do we sign up?
Huh? You said what?
Where do we sign up for the therapy
I
session?
know.
The church service?
Seriously. Drop the Calendly link. Okay, so you're talking about remembering who you are. What I think about this is, what comes to mind is, what helps me to remember who I am is the people that I surround myself with. Like, I'm not gonna go into it, but all my people are here in one place, which is crazy. And I feel like they definitely are walking vessels in reminding me of who God says I am. So for you guys, how does community play a part in the mindset shifts that you constantly have to make with being an investor?
Yeah, I'll speak. And so for me, I've had some residential property, but in the last few years, I've really switched over to more commercial investment in the limited partner position, just because of time constraints with a lot of things I've got going on. And so doing that, when you're in the limited partner position, you're ceding a lot of control to somebody that you're trusting to be a good steward of the capital that you're putting into their investment. And so that, all control in some ways is an illusion, but you feel it a little bit more when you are literally, I'm not going to be managing this in any way, shape, or form. I can't, some starts to go sideways. I will have no decision-making authority to fix it, address it whatsoever, like I would in my condo that I had rented out.
Yeah.
And so the way that I've solved that is through the community of folks that I've surrounded myself with who have done that year after year. Just like by practical example, one of my friends and mentors runs a commercial real estate private equity firm that's locally based, and they put in the money behind. If anyone is here in Atlanta, there was a Kroger on the East Side Beltline that got redeveloped into a
It used
very
to be
fancy
Murder Kroger.
And a
Murder Kroger, right?
I didn't know. If
I
it
mean,
was,
we
Murder
here.
Kroger. Okay. Into a premium Class A office building that has Starbucks in there and like their office, not just the BlackRock, et cetera. He also put the money behind the new MailChimp building on the east side. So he's investing hundreds of millions of dollars at the highest level. And I was fortunate to be a part of a team that put a large tenant in one of their projects. And so through that, we built a relationship. And he's like, I'm going to start showing you some of the deals that I'm investing in, because we made him a bunch of money through putting that tenant in there. And he's also a really strong believer, which matters to me personally. Doesn't mean that strong believers can't do sideways things, but he's a strong believer that I think operates with integrity. And so when he was starting to bring certain investments to me, he would show me how to think about it. He would also show me how much of his personal capital he was putting into them, so that I could understand that, like, hey, this is not something I'm just telling you to do. I'm putting my money behind it.
Yeah.
And then as the investment is currently actively taking place, because it's a 7 to 10 year investment horizon, he's sort of coaching me as updates come in and things like that. And so, I've come from the residential side with my parents even, and that to me, I feel very safe. I feel very comfortable with that. But entering into this other space where I'm ceding control and I haven't done it at that scale before, I've needed that community and sort of tribe of mentors to help me to draw a level of confidence to move forward.
Love it. What about you guys down here, Allison or Jasmine?
I would say on the simplest level, just familiarity. We can listen to podcasts and the guest may have 800 doors, and that feels so far away for most of us. Or a TV show where, $1 million house on a teacher's salary. And it just feels like this is not real. And I think when you have friends who are kind of in the trenches with you doing the same thing, it just feels a lot less foreign. And like, if she can do it, I can do it. And also, we don't have to make the same mistakes. So if Erika makes a mistake, best believe I'm not making it. If I make a mistake, I'm going to tell her she's not making it. So we're going to just push each other along. We're going to get a lot further because we kind of share in the good and we also share in the bad to avoid it.
So what I hear you saying is that we're not on an island. Yeah, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I do. One thing that popped up for me is community, is that I learned through this whole process that, about limiting beliefs that I had and scarcity, right? So those were probably my two biggest things. I didn't realize that I had kind of set a glass ceiling for myself. Like, okay, so I could probably do this thing, maybe get 1 or 2 properties. But you see people in your community doing, okay, so maybe I can have the 30, I can have the whatever. You know what I'm saying? So it's just realizing that, to your point, if they can do it, I can do it, right? So that's first for me. And then secondly, one of my very first calls with Erika and them, we're just going through some things, and I think a few people, and most people in my cohort or my mentorship were married and such. So I just kind of reached out and I was like, single girl over here, is there, is this a space for me? Like, can I do that? This one right here jumped in my DMs and was like, girl, call me. This is my number right here, single right here, XYZ properties. You got this. Literally, she hit me in the DMs, like on the side of a Zoom chat, and was like, call me. You can do this. You got this.
I love it.
And look, we've been rolling ever since.
Yes, I love that.
It's all about community.
It is. You want to add something?
Yeah, I think community has layers to it. One, community, identifying your community requires also looking at yourself. Like, where's the community of people I want to be a part of? Is who I am in alignment with who they are? And is there work on myself that I need to do for that level of community to accept me in? Right?
That's
because
good.
people who move at a high level have very positive outlooks on life, are transparent and honest. And so if I have negativity that I show up with, the people in that environment are not going to invite me in. So what work do I need to do to be welcomed into community? Who am I willing to be for the people I'm in community with? Because we typically know what we want from community, but what are we willing to offer it? The other part of being in community is you have to teach people how to be community for you. In other words, you can't live into community with unspoken expectations, right? And the problem with that is, even in doing business at a high level, there's a tendency to show up in community with unspoken expectations and do things and then expect someone to do the same thing in return when they are not obligated to live into your hopes.
No.
So communicated information in that context of community and trust. I had a client, we were talking earlier, came into a windfall of $175 million.
That's a nice
And
windfall.
He was extremely anxious, called me in the middle of the night, and he was like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And I said, absolutely nothing. Let's talk.
Mike is like, call me.
But
I see his eyes perk up.
now see, again, when you have dominion over your trauma, because my trauma was like, $175 million. Let me hold a few dollars. But showing up in a place where, okay, we are a part of the same community. I'm not centering myself in his story.
Yep.
And I'm here as a part of this community, dealing with someone like this, trying to put them on the right path. So in community, there are times when you show up for people, even in their moment, where it's great on one hand, but there's anxiety. Do not center yourself in their story.
Yeah.
And a part of being community is sometimes learning to be supportive of people with actually nothing in return.
Yeah.
And clearly stating that. I had to, out front before I started advising, first named, I don't want anything from you. Let's remove that assumption, unspoken, off the table. So I think there are layers to community.
Yeah.
You have to communicate, get rid of unspoken expectations. There are layers to it. And the higher you go up in it, I have people in my community, the last thing I say on this, one of the people in my community is a multi-billionaire. And we're at the point, because I have chosen to be worthy of occupying that space, where he will now ask me for investment advice. But this same guy and his wife are some of the best intercessory prayer people I know. And so I don't go to them. I go to them for things that sometimes are intangible for me.
Yeah.
So community has layers to it. There's business, there's
Yeah.
friendship, there's trust, there's communication. But I think the biggest part for many of us trying to overcome fear and move in a high level is sit with yourself and ask, who do I need to become in order to live into this community? What work do I need to do on myself?
I love that. So speaking of that, for sometimes we may be in a place where maybe we have that community. We have a few friends that are positive, that are good influences, that are like-minded, that we can, move forward and grow with. But some of us don't. Some of us have frenemies. We have people who say they're our friend, but they're not really. And to me, they come up and they're like, oh, yeah, you think you can do that? Oh, okay, that must be nice. All these things. So I've learned that a part of the process of growing and of changing, and not just wealth, it kind of for some people, obviously they don't change. They continue to steal wild out. That's what we're seeing in the news. But sometimes for some people, with the wealth growth, also the mind shift changes happen too. So sometimes that means we have to leave people behind. I would love to hear from someone, just maybe an example or a story of, I don't know, family or friends that they had to set a boundary with and leave behind because it was actually interrupting their mindset growth.
I'll be brief, and it just relates to, so again, commercial real estate is not a very diverse industry whatsoever. It's 99% white, and a lot of those individuals are high net worth. And so a lot of the rooms that I engage in on a regular basis, I am, the only black person present. And even though I've come from, I would say, a good, grateful for my upbringing, it's still, there's like a difference practically. Mm-hmm. And so I have had, different friends that are like, man, like, why do you work with those guys? It's like a lot of my team is the epitome of what might be very conservative, Caucasian kind of leanings, and they're like, why do you work with them? Why do you do any business with them, et cetera? And I've had the fortune of seeing that, like, one, they're not the caricatures that they're kind of made out to be, but a lot of people that I've grown up with just don't have to sort of exist in that space on a day-to-day basis, and they, I would say, would try to dissuade me from just engaging in a level with earnestness with a lot of the folks that I engage with in commercial real estate. And so I have not necessarily had to remove those people from my life as much as I've had to take their perspectives, have empathy for it and understand it, but then not let it dictate the way that I move and show up. And so that's something that I really have had to do that because too long of a story, but I left the firm that I'm currently with now largely because of some of the narratives that I was believing that took place after the election of 2016. Yeah. And I actually rejoined that firm a few years later because I was able to sort of reorient the way that I thought about that. And one of the reasons I almost didn't go back, was because I was concerned about what some other people might think about that decision. But then I got to the point, like, hold on, like, I feel very clear about what God has told me to do. I can't allow I can weigh those perspectives, but I can't allow it to govern the way I'm choosing to move forward.
That's good. That's good. That's good work. Anyone else? Everybody's looking. Ramal. They're like, come on.
Okay. So
he's trying to be modest up here.
I got bars. Transparency. So
we transparent here. We family. We cousins.
We cousins. Yes, you have to. When you're leaving people behind, you must have a clear why. Because I don't believe that we should easily throw people away. I have had to make hard decisions with family. In business, it has been tied to people see the level of your life and they start counting your money.
Everybody know what that's like.
I had a very wealthy person one day. I showed up to an event. I'm wearing a tailor-made suit and, a couple of $100,000 watch. And he sat and he looked at me and he said, why are you sitting here letting people count your money? And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, people can tell by that watch you have on and the things you're wearing, they're counting your money. And now this dude has significantly more money than me, and you would never know it. I showed some friends the other day a picture of a billionaire I know who's out of the country right now, and I said, this is what a billionaire looks like. And he looked like if you passed him on the street, he might ask you for some change. But and throwing in the question, there was a time when I had to distance myself from my own mother. Because in her woundedness at the time of battling addiction that she eventually overcame before she passed, I noticed that as I was trying to build my life, every time I spoke to her, I would get depressed immediately after.
Wow. Drains like a chuck your energy.
It would wipe me out.
Yeah.
And I realized that if I was going to keep going at that particular time in my life, I had to actually stop talking to her for a while. Mm-hmm. And it was years, because I also learned in the midst of that silence, which wasn't throwing away, it was realizing that if I don't silence this for a while, neither of us will make it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I need to position myself financially and otherwise to be okay, so that when she's ready, I have something that will bring her out. Not just the resources, but I'm emotionally strong too.
Yeah.
And of course, over time, things got better. She was ready, and when she was ready, I positioned myself. I bought a new home, I remodeled it, built it out for her. But all of that ability took years of silence in order to make sure I was okay.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll say is sometimes people don't leave people behind because they're afraid of being alone. When the reality is, if you're in frenemies and friendly competitions, I had a friend, emphasis on had, who when my first book came out, yeah, I see your little book doing all right.
Little book?
My little
Wait,
book?
what?
My little
What?
book.
Lil.
But we have a tendency to tolerate things like that we know are not good for us. Environments where you're anxious even when you leave the room because they gossip so much you don't even want to leave because you know you want them in you.
Wow.
So in essence, you're afraid of being alone, but you already are. And so cutting things off, situations and sometimes people, and making a shift, you're now actually creating space for the people who are meant to be in your life. Because the people who are meant to be in your life ain't coming into those types of relationships. So sometimes you have to let some people go in order to make room for who's next and who's good for you.
I always say, yeah. That's good. I always say rejection is God's protection. That's a good word. So, okay, so lastly, if you guys could just share some practical, tangible steps that people can begin taking today to really help them begin shift their focus from fear to actually having a growth mindset.
I think for me it's two things. Number one, community, right? So get yourself in those rooms, in those Facebook groups, pay for that mentorship. Number two for me, tangible, really, really easy. And I promise you, I started doing this in 2019, 2020. And it sounds so simple, but just writing it down. And it doesn't have to be something super granular like on Wednesday, November the 3rd, I'm gonna go to the bank. It doesn't have to be anything like that, right? But, what is it that you wanna do, right? So I made a list of several things. The first year I did like 100 things. The next year I scaled it down a bit, but I will travel to 4 continents by 2025,
Yeah.
But I mix those in with affirmations too. I am enough. I will understand business or real estate investing. I will understand the ins and outs of the travel industry. So just mix in affirmations and goals, and I read them every single day. Okay? And it just keeps it on the forefront of your mind, so that you can take action on those things. So I would kind of, say for instance, if I left the house before I read them, I said, okay, I'm gonna fix that. So I would take a picture. I took a picture. I still have it on my phone. I'll take a picture of that list, so that way if I play myself and don't read them before I leave home, as soon as I get to work and sit down, I pull out that picture and I read those affirmations and goals, And those are just super simple. Anybody can do them, tangible things that just keeps your mindset good.
That's good. That's good.
Another really practical thing is while you're at this conference, get everything you can, so fully be here. Also, practical, at the end of the day, write down like your highlights, because when you leave, you're gonna go back to your life, the hustle and bustle of whatever it is you do every day, you're gonna forget. So I would say like 1 or 2 sentences of what you got from that day and how you want to execute moving forward for each day, and just leave here and do something. Don't just, you could have watched a YouTube video or listened to a podcast. You paid money and time to be here, so really make it count.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think I'll double down on just community and trying to surround yourself with some folks that are maybe just like one step ahead of you, that are willing to pour into you, so long as you have sort of a teachable mindset. And then the last one, I would say, I'm beginning to understand my own wiring more and more. And so, I draw a lot of confidence from knowledge. So as I know something more, I feel more, a lot of people think I'm like a type A. When I'm actually not a type A, I can function as a type A in areas where I have high knowledge.
That's good.
And so I understand that. And so if I gain enough knowledge, I have the confidence to move forward and overcome fear. And so I know that about myself. Not everyone is wired that way. There's plenty of people that are actually A's that they will just start running and then they'll figure out the knowledge part later. And so I think just doing some work of understanding yourself, I know you mentioned that, and then aligning yourself around, all right, what type of community do I need that will help supplement my shortcomings, and just having a plan.
That's good. Love it.
Yeah, I think, you definitely have to document things. Documentation beats conversation all day long. And what I mean by that is, when I'm working with clients, it's always start with the story of you. What's the story of your future self? If you were to look at who you are now and who you desire to be over the next 10 years, when you envision that version of yourself, write down, who is that person? What is their quality of life? What are the people saying about that person? Have a vision of your future self that you're willing to write down the story of who you are in the future. That gives you a destination, a vision of who you're becoming. And so every step you take, you now know where you're trying to go. So it's not just the money, because you can have money and still not have a sense of self. And it's just, so then you're just busy with a lot of activity without a destination. But when you have a vision for who you're becoming and the future version of yourself, every action you take now is moving in the direction of that future you. For the people who have, I saw a lot of hands when you said people who are afraid and haven't invested but have been around investing in real estate. I would encourage you to know this, that there's something in you that fear is trying to silence. And you need to confront the fear and realize that in the very truest form, people don't talk like this or realize it often, but there is greatness in you that's waiting on permission. And so fear, you have to confront the fear. So the practical exercise is literally be honest with yourself. What am I afraid of?
Yeah.
Because you cannot conquer it if you do not confront it. So if you write it down, you now have to face it. And then the fear cannot sit in silence anymore, because it's trying to silence the greatness that's waiting for permission.
Yeah.
And then give yourself permission to just take the first step in the direction of what you really desire to do that will move you in the direction of your future self. But you have to start documenting it and being full. If you can't be honest with somebody else about it first, in fact, typically you can't be honest with other people about something you haven't been honest with yourself about.
Yeah.
So when you confront it, you can conquer it, and then give yourself permission to take that next step.
My name is Raquel. I live in New York City.
My name is Andrea. I live in Atlanta.
I never thought I would own a house or any other real estate. It seemed like a great idea. As a New Yorker, real estate is very expensive, so I really didn't think I'd be able to own anything. But it changed this year, coming to this course and thinking, Erika helping me rethink what I could do and what was possible. So now I'm going to be a real estate investor.
Yes, I do see myself owning and investing in real estate. I have tried to do it before. I built 2 houses to sell. The market was not exactly cooperative, though, so it didn't turn out the way that I wanted. So I'm happy to have this opportunity to try it again. How did you get started?
I got started because I decided to accompany my sister on a conference. And I figured I was just going to sit here and listen and meet some people, and I didn't think that I was going to actually participate. And then when I sat there, we started talking, and it seemed like there was an opportunity for this, and I started listening, and I was like, oh, well, maybe I can do this. So I left the conference with some homework, with a little bit of a plan on how to get started. So that's how I got started.
I got started, the big leap happened because my next door neighbor told me about Erika. So I followed Erika online and could see some of the things that she was doing. And then I all of a sudden got this email inviting me to a retreat. And so I went to a retreat, and that's really how things got started.
I think the first challenge for me was not thinking that I could do it. Being located in New York City was a challenge, but talking to folks, talking to Erika and other members helped me rethink what I could do and where I could invest. So once I started thinking to invest out of state, what the other opportunities were and other strategies to actually get to owning a house, then I realized that it was something I could do. So now I'm pursuing one or two strategies.
So my challenges have been that I only knew one way to do things, and that way did not work. And being in this community has shown me that there are different ways to invest, and a lot of different ways. I don't even know all of them yet, but I'm excited that I have learned about some new ones, because that's what I'm going to try to do.
I think the biggest surprise for me was how open she is and how easily the information flows. Like, she's willing to share everything and anything. And supportive, and she's like your cheerleader. You know, usually you go to things like this, you sit down, you listen, you take notes, and you learn. But, you know, you can ask any question, you can ask it again, and she really wants you to succeed, right? So she puts her effort in to help you to get to your goal. So I think that's the biggest thing, and I think that's what makes you want to come back, makes you want to attend different conferences and engage with her, because it's cyclical. You know, we get from her, we give back, and it keeps going. You know, like, you can come in here with no knowledge at all and be accepted 100% fully into the group, and as long as you're willing to learn and it's what you want to do, you'll be supported through all of that, and become part of an absolute wonderful community. Well, I would say that I'm very happy to be a part of this community. It wasn't something I expected or planned, and it's supportive, it's loving, it's forward thinking, and it's fun.
Right, and I would say I'm happy but also excited to be part of the community. I really do appreciate how much she's giving back, and I appreciate the opportunity that she is giving me to help my family and my child to succeed in the future. So I'm elated about that.